In Brooklyn, there's a small, dimly lit bar that looks like any other neighborhood spot. People come in, grab a drink, talk about nothing, and leave. But behind the casual atmosphere, the place serves a darker purpose. It's what they call a drop bar, a location where criminals quietly pass along large sums of illegal money. Working behind the counter is a man named Bob Sejanowski. Bob is the kind of person most people overlook. He's quiet, reserved, and keeps conversations short. He lives alone, sticks to routine, and doesn't seem to want much out of life. The bar itself is run by his cousin Marvin, who once owned it outright, but now answers to more dangerous men, the Chechen mob. One night, a group of locals gather at the bar to remember a man named Glory Days, whose murder was never solved. The mood is heavy, but Bob, wanting to show a bit of kindness, quietly gives them a round of drinks on the house. It's a small gesture, but Marvin immediately pulls him aside, warning him not to do that again. In a place like this, nothing is free. Even something as simple as generosity can create problems. Bob doesn't argue. He never does. But it's clear he sees things differently. He notices people others ignore, like an older woman who spends hours drinking alone every night. Marvin complains she never pays, but Bob still feels sorry for her. It's one of the few glimpses we get that there's more going on beneath his calm surface. After closing the bar that night, Bob walks home alone. The streets are quiet, and he seems comfortable in the silence. It's the kind of loneliness he's grown used to, but that routine gets interrupted a few nights later. As he's walking, he hears a faint whimper coming nearby. Curious, he follows the sound and finds a trash can sitting on the edge of a yard. When he looks inside, he's shocked. A small puppy is curled up inside, badly beaten and barely alive. As Bob leans in to check on it, a woman steps out of the house, startled to see a stranger digging through her trash. Her name is Nadia. At first, she's defensive, but when she sees the condition of the dog, her tone immediately softens. She invites Bob inside. Nadia carefully cleans the dog, treating its wounds with experience and calm precision. Bob, on the other hand, looks completely out of his depth. He's uncomfortable, unsure, and clearly not used to taking care of anything or anyone. When Nadia starts gathering supplies, food, blankets, toys, Bob hesitates. He suggests taking the dog to a shelter, but Nadia quickly shuts that idea down. She explains that dogs like this often end up right back in bad situations. If he wants to help, he needs to take responsibility. Bob tries to avoid it. He even asks Nadia to keep the dog instead, but she refuses. She works nights and doesn't have the time. Eventually, after a moment of internal conflict, Bob reluctantly agrees to keep it just for a couple of days, but even he doesn't fully believe that. The next day at the bar, Bob tells Marvin about the dog. Marvin finds it amusing, seeing his quiet, controlled cousin suddenly overwhelmed by something so small. He tells Bob not to overthink it. It's just a dog. But outside, two men sit across the street, watching the bar carefully. Later that night, everything explodes. As the last customers leave, the two men storm inside. They move fast, shouting orders, demanding money. One of the workers gets beaten brutally, and Marvin quickly empties the register to avoid making things worse. The robbers take the cash and disappear. When it's over, Bob and Marvin find their co-worker barely conscious and call for help. The police arrive soon after, including Detective Torres, who recognizes Bob from church. During questioning, Bob casually mentions noticing something unusual. One of the robbers was wearing a broken watch. It's a small detail, but it stands out. Marvin, however, is furious. After the police leave, he snaps at Bob for saying too much. In their world, details can come back to haunt you. Even worse, while the stolen money didn't belong to the mob that night, the bar still does, and that means consequences are coming. The next morning, Bob picks up the dog from Nadia and fully commits to taking care of it. With her help, he buys everything he needs and even names the dog Rocco. Slowly, something begins to change in him. He starts spending his free time training Rocco, learning how to care for him and adjusting his routine. For the first time, his life has something new in it, something that depends on him. But outside that small bubble, things are getting dangerous. The Chechen mob boss soon visits the bar. He doesn't yell or make a scene. Instead, he calmly shows them what happens to people who fail him. A beaten man tied up in his van. Then he gives them a simple order: find out who robbed the bar. No excuses. Marvin is clearly shaken. He starts staying home more, growing paranoid, constantly constantly thinking someone is watching him. Meanwhile, Bob continues his routine, almost untouched by the pressure. Then, everything takes a darker turn. One night, Bob and Marvin discover a bag hanging behind the bar. Inside is something horrifying, blood-soaked money and a severed arm, still wearing a broken watch. The same watch Bob mentioned to the police. It's a message. Marvin completely unravels. He realizes the situation is spiraling out of control, but Bob remains strangely calm. He simply suggests they return the money and fix things before it gets worse. At around the same time, a man named Eric Deeds starts showing up. Eric is unpredictable, aggressive, and clearly unstable. He claims the dog, Rocco, belongs to him and insists he wants it back. He casually mentions violent things, including taking credit for Glory Day's murder. Bob listens quietly, but doesn't react much. Still, he doesn't trust him. As days pass, Bob grows closer to Nadia. She opens up about her past, struggles with addiction, self-harm, and her toxic relationship with Eric. She warns Bob that Eric is dangerous and unpredictable, but Bob doesn't judge her. He simply listens. It's clear he cares in his quiet way. Meanwhile, Marvin is dealing with his own problems. His father's medical care is draining money he doesn't have, and desperation starts pushing him towards reckless decisions. Eventually, the truth comes out. Marvin was behind the robbery. He planned it himself, hoping to take the money and escape his problems, but now it's all falling apart. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Marvin even plans another robbery, this time bigger, but when his partner refuses, Marvin kills him without hesitation. At this point, he's crossed a line he can't come back from. As for Eric, he begins pushing harder. He threatens Bob, demanding money if he wants to keep the dog, but Bob doesn't seem afraid. If anything, he's just observing. Then comes Super Bowl night, the busiest night of the year. The bar is packed with people, noise, and energy. Bob moves calmly through the chaos, collecting envelopes of money from different men and placing them in the safe. Everything looks normal on the surface, but underneath, tension is building. Eventually, the crowd clears out, leaving only Bob, Nadia, and Eric. Eric starts acting erratically, pushing conversations, demanding money, and even suggesting they rob the safe. It's clear he's desperate and not thinking straight. Then, Bob finally speaks, and what he reveals changes everything. Years ago, Marvin had a similar situation with a young man who owed him money. When the man miraculously paid him back after winning big, Marvin didn't want to let that opportunity go. So he arranged for the man to be killed, and Bob helped him. That man was Glory Days. The quiet bartender everyone underestimated was never innocent. He was just better at hiding it. Eric tries to push back, still acting tough, but it's too late. Without raising his voice, without hesitation, Bob pulls out a gun and shoots him, just like that. Cold, controlled, final. Nadia is horrified. She realizes she never really knew who Bob was, but Bob calmly reassures her she's safe. He lets her leave, promising no one will hurt her again. Outside, Marvin watches her run out and immediately understands everything has gone wrong. When he calls Bob, neither of them say much. They don't need to. They both know how this ends. Soon after, the mob arrives. They take care of Eric's body without concern and reveal they already know the truth. Marvin was behind everything, and they've already dealt with him. He's dead. Then, in a surprising twist, they turn to Bob. Instead of punishing him, they offer him a position. He can run the bar now, even rename it after himself, Bob's Bar. Bob doesn't react much. He just accepts it, like everything else. Days later, Detective Torres returns. He explains that Eric couldn't have killed Glory Days. He had an alibi, which means someone else did it. Bob listens calmly, showing no reaction, but the detective seems to understand. He gives Bob a knowing look before walking away. In the end, Bob visits Nadia again. He doesn't force anything. He simply gives her a choice. If she wants him gone, he'll leave. She hesitates, then agrees to go for a walk. And just like that, life continues. Bob returns to his routine. He takes care of Rocco, runs the bar,
and keeps everything under control. On the surface, nothing has changed, but now we know the truth. Bob was never just a quiet bartender. He was always something much darker.